Hey there guys, it's METAGAMESGX here, and we're going to be doing another episode of yapping about Branded, finally about Branded Dracotail, and I have most of my cards in the mail, so we're going to be sleeving them up and just talking about, the pros and the cons of Branded Dracotail, and just a bunch of different points that I wanted to talk about, and we're going to do it all yapping about the cards and sleeving up my new deck that I'm going to be taking to locals tomorrow. We can even talk about the locals experience a little bit at the end too. So if you guys want to see more content like this, please let me know down below, because I haven't done a yapping about Branded in a minute. It's been a minute. I think really Branded's been kind of just the same up until the Dracotail release. Of course, we were just going in and out of formats. I mean, I think the Mitsurugi meta was pretty good for us, but at the end of the day, how the format developed wasn't, like, because a lot of these decks were starting to go into Protos a lot of the time, and like Lunalight had came out, and it's just like Paradise Smashers with the Vanquish Soul is also just like not your friend, right? They can do that very easily. So I think that the format wasn't looking great for Branded, but of course, there were still tops here and there for the Despia list, but then Dracotail came out, and I think this has changed the game. There have been about 4, I believe, regional tops that I know of a pure Branded Dracotail list. Now, what I mean by that is not a actual pure, like, Branded or Dracotail list. I'm talking about they are using the Branded and Dracotail cards to great effect. So it's like a lot of these builds have been 60 card builds. Most of them have been 60 card builds. I think there was like one that was below. And I will link down to all the lists also, so you guys can check them out. But I think I've been really testing a lot of these lists and seeing what works best for me. As you guys have seen on the streams lately, I have been playing a lot of Branded Dracotail on Dueling Book, and currently my win rate is pretty good. I think in the last 20 games, I've only lost 3 of them, so that's pretty solid, I'd say, overall with the deck. Going first, going second, I feel like the Dracotail cards allow me to do exactly what I want to be doing with my deck, which is really cool. I've been actually really having a heyday with board breaking with just basically Engine. I think like all you need is like a Thrust or a Fuelos, basically, and you can take care of most decks, right? Now, I think that we'll have to talk definitely about the matchups between the new decks, because of course there is Yummy, there is Vanquish Soul. I do think those decks are very good, all things considered. And I generally think that the Dracotail cards give Branded the ability to play the game now, because a lot of the time before Branded, I think, was limited, and it's like kind of like combo trees and things like that, like what it was actually able to do, because like a lot of its power was just choke pointed into Branded Fusion. I think that having a build that diversifies your power in the form of the Dracotail cards, which do an incredible job at this, because there are multiple different like, you have to stop a Phimina, you have to stop a Lucius, you have to stop a Malulu, and then you also just have the fusion cards that allow you to get there anyway, so it's just a lot of the time just ends up being really, really, really good for what Branded's actually trying to accomplish, right? Because both of the engines use like spellcasters and dragons, so I think that they mesh very well with each other. Like, for instance, like Branded and High Spirits works very well with it. I also think that, there's obviously a line to bridge both engines into each other, whether you're using the Dracotail cards, whether you're using the Branded cards, right? Like, we showed off the Trishula combo on the channel, which is effectively a combo to allow you to get out, to bridge the Dracotail cards into the Branded cards, which is super cool. And it's something that I'm still debating on running myself. I think I presented that combo, from Nicholas, shout out to him for making that combo once again, but I feel like I wanted to show off that combo so people knew they had that option, right? It's cool to know, it's good to know that Trishula is a card that you can run if you run a lot of Dracotail cards to then bridge into the Branded cards, right, in my opinion. So I do think that there's a lot going on for that, and this is also very unscripted, guys. We're gonna just shoot from the hip here and just kind of talk about the deck and go really free flow with it, because I think that, we're gonna have the deck profile soon, of course, on the deck, and when that comes, we're going to have the really in-depth kind of explanations, but I kind of just still want to talk about the deck itself and just the future of Branded and, overall just its place in the meta, and why I think you guys should be running branded Dracotail, and why branded Dracotail is kind of better than the standard branded variant. You know, I think the standard branded variant, arguably, actually funny enough, has a better matchup into Yummy than the branded Dracotail variant because of the card Herald of the Arclight, which is their boss monster, which provides them an Omni negate, but also, I think more importantly, against our deck, it has a floodgate effect to send any monster sent from the hand or main deck to the graveyard is banished instead. So it basically turns off all of your Dracotail effects, which is really crazy, honestly. I think that if you go Malulu normal summon against Herald, it's pretty good because then Malulu will go to the graveyard and then you can negate the Herald, so it kind of forces the Herald, but so that's why I run 3 Malulu, but I think overall, you know, the Yummy has a really good time into Dracotail Pure because of Herald, and that's kind of why I like also running the branded variant over the Pure Dracotail variant, because I think that there's pluses to running both engines, and I think that they complement each other so well, and I just think that the branded cards are still a great meta call, because you win the mirror match against the Dracotail cards, or the pure Dracotail players, like 90% of the time, because your engine just outgasses them. Like, I've showed this off on stream. As I mentioned before, we've been grinding a lot of DB lately, and I'm currently at 700 rating, which is pretty decent, with, like, once again, like, an 80% win rate overall in the last, like, 20 or so games. So it's been a very, you know, I think the deck's performing very well. Like, I feel like I'm very much excited to participate in events coming up because I want to play the deck. I think the deck's very good, and I think it's the best chance branded is going to have to top it that it's had in a while. I think branded's just, once again, it was very neutered after Gimmick Puppet got banned and then Branded Fusion got you know, limited. I think that, you know, without new support, the deck, right, only had so many plays, and, you know, we still made it work, but there were still tops. But I think that the fact that you get a new engine that gives you like 5-6 new pushes essentially is just so crazy, I think, in my opinion. And because the pushes all work with the branded cards too for the most part, so there's like a lot of synergy, and it's just like peanut butter and jelly. They sit on top each other and go together very well. I know that's not the best analogy, but I do think so. And, you know, speaking of, I've been showing off the Shit All Fusion. I might as well talk about that while we're here, but I do think that Shit All Fusion is quite incredible. You guys have been seeing me use this on Dueling Book a lot lately. You basically make the Agrista by sending the Urgula, which is the Dracotail that pops a spell or trap. You got the Dracotail Flame, which I feel like is actually one of the better, definitely the better of the traps for the most part. I think comparatively to Horn, this is way more live and just does more for, like, the branded version at the very least, because you lose to, like, a lot of just power spells in branded, whether it's, like, Called By or, like, Droplet or something like that. So I think this is a good out for those cards, and, you know, just stuff to consider with what you're main decking in branded, because I think you're already maining a lot of traps for the most part, so, like, it's kind of hard, in my opinion, to main two. Both of these in the branded Dracotail version, even in a heavy build, because you want to run cards like Fusion Duplication, right? Or like maybe even Branded Banishment if you like that card. You know, I feel like it's sometimes, or Fusion Duplication too. It's just, you have to be careful on like how many bricks or how many traps you're bringing in for the most part. So that's something that's really come up for me while deck building this deck. So like I've been siding the Horn, so I guess we'll put that in the side deck pile for right now, and we'll get to that. And then, like I mentioned, I guess we're just gonna proxy a couple cards for the 2 Ketus. So this will be my second Ketu, and then we also have to proxy one for the 3rd Starlight Phimina, unfortunately. And yeah, so now that will be the main deck right there, and then 1 Pan. And then a Phimina, Malulu, extra deck can go right there. Should all Fusion in the extra deck. It's also thinking about, or definitely Gulamel. I think Gulamel is just so good, honestly. A lot of the time, this is just like a great endboard piece that you can use under like Fulos, or just like a pretty simple endboard. Also, Book of Eclipse is something I want to consider, to be honest. Also, look at these Collector Rare Rahus. Yeah, no, so Book of Eclipse is really good. I think it's probably the best quick play board breaker in Branded for the most part, because you get to dodge like Imperm or Veiler on, you know, a Kit, an Aluber, a Lucius, right? Like, one of those three monsters, you can just completely dodge one of the best interruptions in the game on, right? So I think it's something to consider for that, especially. Also, Dark Ruler No More, I think, is like one of the best side deck cards in the game right now, frankly, just because it takes care of Yummy. It's also very solid into the fully capped VSK9 board. I think it's like a totally acceptable kind of side deck card there. Dragon's Mind is something I also want to consider because it's just something, it's like a quick, it's basically a solemn judgment that I can discard a lot of the time. And, you know, we've been running the 60 card grass build, so I think that's something that allows us to do that. Yeah, no, we have all the monsters right there, and then here's our Lucius. I think Lucius is honestly one of the best cards that you might not be running in Dracotail Branded for the most part. I think this card does allow you to go normal summon and play through hand traps better, because if you get like impermed on Lucius versus being impermed on a Luber, it's better to get impermed on a Lucius because you can like go fusion deployment, fuse off Lucius, or if you have polymerization, fuse off the Lucius, or if you have Phimina, fuse off the Lucius. I mean, it's just like this card's just a lot better under into imperm, I think, than a Luber, so that's why in a lot of my recent builds I've actually only been maining one Aluber, and that's likely what we're going to be doing in this build too. Because it's been working online, honestly. It's been working quite well online. And then we have to sleeve up the Grista too, of course, because this is, once again, one of the cards I want to see with Dracotail. Because you get to send the Urgula off of the Shadal Fusion to make the Grista with a Shadal Beast. So you get to draw a card plus pop a card. You can also send the dragon, obviously, to pop 2 spells or traps, which is just really strong. But then it also bridges you into the Dracotail card. So it's basically just like another Rahu fusion going second. And honestly, you guys are going to see, like, I kind of took out Book of Eclipse in my latest build. I have been running Book of Eclipse. I'm just like thinking that we could actually just go all engine, honestly, and have more consistency for the most part. Now, Quertus is something I actually wasn't running up until recently because I'm running double Guignol, so I need something to summon off the second Guignol besides just like the second Quem, in my opinion. But I think Quertus is also very high value for breaking a board because you have so many pushes with like the Rahu Fusion and then the Ketu and then branded cards, and I think just having the ability to go into Quertus off of Guignol for free is super important. To be honest, it gives you a body that you just need to OTK essentially, and it does just help you OTK with its effect anyways, and it's a good floating effect, so it can keep you in the game sometimes. So I do think this card should probably be still ran if you're running something like, you know, double Guignol, for instance, and then Secretarion. Oh my god, where do I get started with Secretarion Dragon? This card's so good. Secretarion Dragon is... I would never run branded without this card again, honestly. Even like, not even, like, pure branded. I would never run branded without this card again. This card's just so good. It recycles your Quem. It makes it so you can just, like, run one Quem if you want, or, like, one Cartesia, or you could still just run multiples, but it's still just great as a floodgate for the Dracotail deck. Like, you can make this against them, and then they can't really do a whole lot. And unless they out it, which they can, but it's just like a good interruption piece. But also, more importantly, going first, it's a combo piece, so you can play through hand traps, or just like you can revive an Albaz or revive a Cartesia. So many times I just like talents take my opponent's Secretarion Dragon, then I go Secretarion Dragon, like summon an Albaz in my graveyard. Basically, it's like this card's crazy, or just like I can make my own Secretarion Dragon. So it's just, you need it for the Dracotail matchup because it does help you a lot there, but I think it's also just like an incredible just like board piece that you can have on your board. Or just like combo piece that you can have and branded that like on it's basically a going first sanctifier, if that makes sense. Like it can help you combo, right? You can use its effect to revive on your own turn effectively. So yeah, no, I think that like the Secretarion Dragon's definitely worth it to run. I've had some people say, is it mandatory? I think it's basically mandatory, but I don't think, like, obviously you don't need it, but I do think it just like helps if you know how to play the branded deck very well. Like, it will just like reward you because it just like gives you lines once again you just didn't have before, which is why I love about Secretarion and why I love about Dracotail. It just gives you a bunch of options that you just 120% just did not have before, essentially. So let me put these cards over here that I still need to resleeve, because I have to resleeve basically all my old cards, so I don't want to mix in the old with the new. And so here's my second Dark Ruler, or third Dark Ruler. Forbidden Droplet's something that you can consider. We'll put this over here for like cards you can consider evenly. 2, Foolish is something I was just like really whatever about. Lancia is also something I feel like you have to run until the ban list, until Malice gets out of the format. But we're also on 60 cards, so I don't know how much I really need it. To be honest, and Evenly is very good as a board breaker. I'm just not, like, the highest on that card right now. Branded Banishment's very good, but we aren't running the Light and Darkness Dragon Lords, so I don't think there's too much of a point in running the card, to be honest, in our build. Because it's also a trap, so it conflicts with, like, running the Dracotail traps a bit, in a certain sense, because you won't be able to do your thing, basically. Also, here's our 3 Book of Eclipse. You won't be able to, I don't know what I was gonna say. And then also Shadal Dragon for the Shadals. I guess we are technically trying that out right now. And then some All-Art Cartesia. And we have the extra deck cards here, which is cool. And then we got my Field Centers, of course. Guardian Chimera is something I've actually been really enjoying in Branded again, because I feel like this build is much more centered on Branded in Red than, like, you know, the last couple builds with Banishment. So it's something that, like, when you're using Branded Red so much, I think this card comes up a lot, and you still have, like, things like Tragedy and Retribution to reset it. So I think it's very easy to get back into rotation for the most part. So that's why I do like it. Also, Alba Lenatus is something I kind of want to run, because it's, like, it's something that's good for the mirror match, and then also between this and Secretarion Dragon, you have infinite grind game guys. Like, you can just, like, right, you can go Secretarion Dragon to revive a monster, and then you can go Alba Lenatus to, like, spin back all your dragons, so you're just, like, always spinning back cards with Secretarion and Alba Lenatus. It's technically an infinite loop between those two cards, because they can spin each other back, so it's, you could run both in theory, and I wouldn't be mad about it, honestly, in my opinion. Also, Annoyatelis is something I've been, like, people are like, why don't you run the other Shadal fusions? I just think that the Urgala is the best one, because it board breaks, the other ones don't. Like, you could run the Wind Shadal, and I guess that board breaks, but I don't think it's, like, actually that good. Or it's not as good, right? And also, Allure of Darkness is something I've wanted to run, but I just think it doesn't work with the Dracotail cards. You just, like, it's too expensive in terms of, like, card advantage, and you just can't afford to banish a monster that you need to send off of your Rahu fusion, basically. That's basically the bear of it. I still am siding 3 Perulia and then maining 3 Fuwalos. I think that Fuwalos just works better in our deck for the most part, because of the fact that it's a High Spirits bridge, and then also it's just still solid. Like, you Fuwalos against Yummy on your own turn, you draw like 3 to 4 or 5, or it automatically baits the Herald, which is a good 1-for-1. And because that's the only dangerous part about the Yummy board, is the Herald against your deck, and then once you take care of that, you're fine. Obviously, they can just remake a Herald, but then they get rid of all their advantage, so you have like a window of opportunity to do stuff if this outs the Herald. And then also it's great against K9, and then it's pretty good against Dragontail on either turn, so it's pretty good just overall. And then plus just you need it for like Malice and stuff like that. And then Thrust is still something I'm running for sure. I think this card's just custom. It's basically gets you to talents, which talents take is just crazy this format with Secretarions. And then also Thrust is just like very good, obviously, to get to Grass or into Branded Fusion. Okay, so Super Poly, it's the same theory with Allure of Darkness, where I just like can't afford to discard a card anymore, so, or just get rid of a card. So I'm currently not running Super Poly at the moment. Gold Sark seems pretty decent as a 1-card starter in a 60-card build, so I've been on and off. Called By is something I'm like currently siding, honestly, because some decks just like don't even have like really anything for me to like play around with hand traps, and like this is great against Herald, but I don't know, that's why I'm just siding it. So that's just kind of where I'm at with that one. Harpy's Feather Duster I still feel like is solid. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of like Lightning Storm this format because I just don't think it covers enough. So I think Feather Storm plus, or Feather Duster plus Dark Ruler is like enough for my side deck, plus like the Shaddoll Fusion, so it just gives me enough coverage between like spells and traps and monster popping that I think I'm just like fine. Don't think I need Droll. It's the same reason why like Lancea isn't technically in my side deck right now. I just like, there's not enough Malice, and like the Malice I'll see, it's just like if I win die roll I win, and then if not I still have a decent chance with the Dracotail cards. I think you have a better chance at board breaking a Malice deck now with Engine with the Dracotail card, so that's always something that you can keep in mind, right? And then of course Grass looks greener. I think Grass is one of the best reasons to run Branded right now because this card gets you to so much, but you have to build around it. A lot of people don't understand that. You have to like run Branded in white to build around it. If you don't run Branded in white, in my opinion, you might as well not even run Grass. And then also if you have 3 Sarnier or 3 Shrouded, that's how you know you should basically be on Grass, because like if you go Grass, you automatically get the Branded Fusion because your likelihood of milling a Shrouded plus a Sarnier or a Tragedy is just like extraordinarily high. And Brandon White's like one of my favorite cards right now. I kind of mentioned this before, but I've been breaking I've been using this in 50% of my games that I win to board break. I think like a lot of the time that you just need a option to search off of Aluber if you already have Brand Fusion, or if you can just send it through your Cartesia plays. It makes Cartesia a board breaker because you can go Cartesia, go to the Grand Guignol, get to the red or the white, and you know, if you went Shrouded early in the turn, like if you go Shrouded going second, you should always be like sending Albaz, in my opinion, for the Branded and white plays. So you just have to see the lines, but like, you know, plus you can already board break with Albaz, and then this just like makes like value. It's just like such a good like second or third last card in hand to like keep pushing basically, and like it's an additional push that the deck doesn't have already. It's also good going first because you get to play through hand traps, right? And it's also pretty good with the Dracotail cards actually, because turns out Altharion is also a dragon, so you can use Altharion. You can go Brandon White, banish the Albaz from grave, and send a Dracotail from a hand, and then, or sorry, you could just send like 2 cards from your hand, including a Dracotail, and make an Altharion, right? So it's pretty good. Or if you have a Malulu that got impermed, you could just use this right after. So it's pretty good with both engines, which is why I like it as well. I think it's really underrated. A lot of people, you know, I would highly recommend checking it out. And then also maybe people could talk about Magnamut right now. I think Magnamut's kind of like whatever. I don't think Bestials are very good unless you're going against Mitsurugi, but like even against Mitsurugi, it's like fine. Like I think like when I see Mitsurugi, it's like Dracotail Mitsurugi right now, and I'm much more afraid of the Dracotail engine, if anything. And that's also another matchup where they just like sometimes just make Winda Secretarion, so like you just have to have a board breaker, which is why I do like the Book of Eclipses. So I probably am likely going to keep in Book of Eclipse, but there's like a world where I just want to run like basically only Fulos Thrust and then be fine, because you know, even against Dracotail, I can like get them to use a card and then go Talons take window, right? And then, I mean, I guess, well, like, Talons take window isn't the best, so I think that's why Eclipse is the best, because, like, you can just use Eclipse, it forces interruptions, or it just, like, nukes the whole board, essentially, right? It also lets you dodge Imperm. I think this one, it's just, like, Droplets not as good because of, I think, Herald of the Arclight right now. Because Herald of the Arclight, once again, you just can't send cards from your hand or main deck from the graveyard, or monsters from your hand to the graveyards for cost, basically, under that. So Droplet, you can't send monsters from hand, which is pretty bad, right? You have to send your power spells, which is what you need. That's why you run Branded Dracotail. We had Sam Jang on the podcast last week. Check out that podcast if you haven't already. But that's like one of the reasons why we run the Dracotail cards in Branded, because you just have Ketu Dracotail and Rahu Dracotail, which are the best board breakers ever, and they're also just like starters, right? Like Rahu set is a Branded Fusion, and Ketu going second is just, this card's better than Rahu going second. It's crazy because you just add a Dracotail card and then you fuse from your hand, and that's an automatic bounce 2, or you could just dump your whole hand and Altharion bounce like 4, which is the crazy part. And a lot of your cards with Branded, when you're running the Shrouded, multiple Sarnier, like you're just dumping cards that don't matter in that they're in graveyard or hand at that moment. So I think there's a lot of synergy between the engines, and like I think like branded lost is also very important in these builds. I think it puts it together because you can always like go Saronir, send Lubellion, summon like a Bestial or something, make the Lubellion, and then go Ketsu Rahu, search your kit, and then get to branded fusion, right? So I think kit is definitely mandatory in these builds, and I think 3 high spirits is very mandatory because all the Dracotail monsters are spellcasters and dragons, so you could go high spirits, just send one of your 2 Gwignals for one of the spellcasters. That's why we run 2 Gwignal, and then Gwignal can trigger going second, and then you can summon the Quertus or the Quem going second. So that's why I think that like high spirits should be a 3 of also in these builds, just because it's just too much synergy, and like a 60 card build especially, you just like need ways to convert your Albasses and like Saronir bricks essentially. So I think that's pretty correct, and also running like 3 and 3 of these are really correct, so yeah. I think that was a fun yapping about branded, guys. I'm gonna go sleeve up this deck and do more, so this doesn't like go too long, but yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed this. We're gonna be back with a deck list later this week. I'm gonna be hopefully entering in a regional this weekend, so wish me luck. Let me know down below what you guys thought about this yapping about branded. What do you want me to yap about next time with branded Dracotail? I just didn't want this to go too long because some of these go for like an hour. I could make this go for an hour. If you guys want to see the part 2, how about this? I'm gonna go record a part 2. If this video gets 200 likes, we will release the part 2. So yeah, guys, with that being said, see you guys later. Have a good one. Comment down below what your favorite part of the video was, and if you're playing branded Dracotail this format. See you guys later. Subscribe. Road to 20k. Love you guys. Bye.